Hello everybody, Maven here, and today we're going over the God roll for the new Phoneutria Fera shotgun frame hand cannon, because the God roll for this thing is not what you'd expect it to be. Now, if you are a regular viewer of this channel, you know that I try to cover things other content creators don't do, so I can try to be unique and stand out in my own way. And though I believe all the other content creators have already done or will be doing a Phoneutria Fera God roll guide this week, I still decided to make this video anyways because I was testing my Phoneutria Fera God rolls last night, and I stumbled upon a very weird roll that stood out to me that I have a hunch nobody else will be talking about. So consider this my PSA. So let's break it down. Hope you enjoy. Shout out to our sponsor, Advanced GG, the #1 gaming supplement in the world. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off. Link down below. Thank you. So let's start by going over the Phoneutria Fera's possible roles. In the left column, we got Barrel Constrictor, Threat Remover, Threat Detector, Slide Shot, Transcendent Moment, and Proximity Power. And in the right column, we got 1-2 Punch, Swashbuckler, Binary Orbit, Surrounded, Frenzy, and Incandescent. So we'll talk about the unique God roll in a couple minutes, but first let's get the typical God roll out of the way, the one that's obvious. Everyone's going to tell you that Slide Shot 1-2 Punch is the God roll, and I'm one of them. That's absolutely a roll you're going to want, but there's more. So 1-2 Punch, this is obviously significant because it's the first ever primary weapon to get this perk. However, for those that didn't know, the multiplier is different on it being a primary. So as you can see in this test here, our base melee at 63 melee stat in this clip is 199 damage. With the Phoneutria Fera, we go up to 357 damage, which is a 75% increase. And then with a real shotgun, we go up to 495, which is a 150% damage buff. So it's exactly halved on the Phoneutria Fera. And that makes sense because, you know, it's a primary, it's got the infinite ammo. It's also going to be easier to land those pellets and proc the perk from a further distance. So it's absolutely a weapon you're going to want for melee-based builds. It may be subjective. Some people may prefer a real shotgun for the greater boost, but obviously there is the quality of life with the hand cannon, you know, being easier and infinite ammo. And then Slide Shot's going to make it really easy to not have to reload because you can just slide around the place and load in 2 bullets back into the mag at a time. However, I do have a problem with this roll. And the problem's not with the weapon itself, it's just because of the fact that Trials just came out, and we got the Aureus neutralizer from it, which has Grave Robber and 1-2 Punch, which is just a vastly superior roll. I really wish that the Phoneutria Fera had Grave Robber. It fully reloads your weapon on a melee hit, and since, you know, you're using 1-2 Punch, obviously that's going to be happening all the time. So the Aureus neutralizer is just superior, although it is in a different slot. So if you needed to have Phoneutria Fera like for the energy slot, you got that option. However, it doesn't have Grave Robber. So Aureus neutralizer is better. But if you are a build crafter, it's still a weapon you're going to want in your arsenal just in case. So with that out of the way, let's talk about our unique God roll. So I was thinking of ways I could use the Phoneutria Fera as a standalone weapon instead of just as a tool to use 1-2 Punch for. So I was looking at my options, and in the right column, obviously you're going to want Incandescent, one of the best ad-clear perks in the game. But in the left column, Slide Shot is nice, but there's some situations where you're too close quarters and there's bumpy terrain and you can't slide, or you're too close to enemies and you're not in a situation that's very slidable, and then your reload's going to be slow. It's kind of annoying. So I wanted a faster reload. I was looking at Threat Detector, and it's a great perk. It boosts your reload speed when you're near a target, even more when you're near 2 targets. But the problem is, if you kill those targets, suddenly the perk's offline and you're going to reload slow again. So it's a little bit aggravating. And then I stumbled upon Threat Remover. Threat Remover is one of those garbage tier perks that you don't know why Bungie put in the game. But the game has to have garbage perks because that makes you play the game more to grind for the good perks. So it's always completely useless to have this perk. But now that it's on a primary, suddenly the value of it shot through the roof. It's so much better on a primary than it ever was on any special shotgun. It says dealing damage with all the pellets in a spread increases reload speed, handling, and stability. And you know, with the Phoneutria Fera having the tight spread it does, that's pretty much going to be active on every single shot, basically guaranteed unless you're the worst at aiming ever. Now, it doesn't tell you how much reload speed you get, doesn't tell you on the API, doesn't tell you on D2 Foundry, but thank goodness for the data compendium. So we know when you land your shot with the Phoneutria Fera, it's going to boost your reload speed by 60. for 7 seconds. And that's active on basically every single shot. Just free, just static 60 reload speed across the board at all times when you have threat remover in that third column. It's amazing. So you have 25 reload speed at base, 85 with threat remover, 95 with a solar loader mod, and then a 0.85x reload duration multiplier, and suddenly you're reloading extremely fast all the time for free. You don't have to do anything but just shoot your gun, which you're doing anyways. That's the whole point, and you're not going to lose it like you do with threat detector. You're not going to have situations where you can't use it like slide shot. It's just always there. So it's an amazing perk. So threat remover plus incandescent is going to be like the standalone role if you actually want to use the Phoneutria Fera as an add clear primary instead of just a stick to activate 1-2 punch with. So it's an awesome role, very satisfying, and it does some pretty good damage. And speaking of damage, we're going to do some damage testing comparing this thing against some of the other best of the best close range solar incandescent add clear primaries in the game. So recently in the Rite of the Nine event, we got the No Survivors with rewind rounds and incandescent, and you also got restoration ritual in there. Nasty roll. So with 1 mag DPS on Carl with rewind rounds, we get 159 DPS. And over 2 magazines, it drops off a bit down to 142 DPS. So pretty decent. But now we come to the heliocentric with heel clip incandescent. Now 360 sidearms are the highest DPS primary archetype in the game for legendary weapons. So with 1 mag, our DPS is 171, and over 2 mags drops down to 143, which is just a single point higher than the No Survivors. And then we come to the Phoneutria Fera, and surprise, surprise, our 1 mag DPS is 181. However, I have not yet gotten a roll to drop with extended mag. With extended mag and a backup mag or appended and an enhanced backup mag, you can reach 14 in the magazine, which is pretty large given how slow this weapon fires. So if you actually had that, it would drop your DPS to 177 for 1 mag. And that's still good because that is higher than the 1 mag for heliocentric by 6 points. And still with our 11 mag roll, over 2 mags our DPS goes to 157, which is 14 points higher than heliocentric, 15 higher than the No Survivors. So that's pretty good. This weapon does a lot of damage. However, there is one major downside of doing such good damage, and that is going to be range. Now, first of all, does range stat investment matter on your Phoneutria Fera God Roll? Well, let's test that out. I have a couple rolls here, one with good range at 71 range, and then one with absolute minimum range, which I think is like 30 with steady rounds or something like that. And with the minimum range roll, we only get maximum damage up to exactly 14 meters and no more, not even 14 and a half. And then we go to our 71 range roll and we extend that range deeper to about 16 meters exactly. So it's only a 2 meter difference for a 40 range stat difference. So it doesn't really matter too much like care so much about your range stat when going for a god roll for this thing, but it's really up to you. But where the Phoneutria Fera really suffers compared to things like the heliocentric and No Survivors is the hit scan, because it has drop off just like any shotgun does. So at 26 meters exactly is the furthest it'll go before it starts to not register on targets, and that's kind of disappointing. I was hoping like any other primary in the game that it would actually have like a minimum damage but like infinite range hit scan. And I really hope Bungie updates that in the future, because it's a little bit aggravating when you try to shoot something out at like 30 meters and it just whiffs. So the good DPS of this thing is the trade-off of it having this hit scan flaw. Plus, one more thing about it is that it seems that the crit multipliers seem to be a little bit different with this thing compared to other primaries. So if we do another 2 mag DPS test with crits against Carl, with the Phoneutria Fera, it comes out to 183 DPS over 2 mags to the crit. And then with the No Survivors, it seems to be a lot better at 236 over 2 mags to the crit, which is significantly more, given that's also with rewind rounds. I kind of have a feeling that Phoneutria Fera would win this test if it wasn't for rewind rounds, and also if we had the bigger mag perk. But still, one reason to argue for the Phoneutria Fera here is that these close range weapons are like, they're aggressive weapons, they're spray and pray weapons. A majority of the time, you're not hitting crits, you're hitting body shots because you're using them from like 10 meters or less, like a lot of the time. So you don't have to worry too much about the crit DPS. I feel like it's the burst damage that matters when it comes to close range. So I feel like the answer is subjective here. Whether you prefer the Phoneutria Fera, the heliocentric, or the no survivors, that is all up to you. But yeah, this was just my PSA letting you know Threat Remover Incandescent is the god roll for the, actual Phoneutria Fera. The 1-2 punch roll, that's just like, you're basically getting the weapon as a tool, not as like an actual weapon. So anyways, before we end the video, I guess I'll give some tips on how to farm this thing. So you basically got to farm combat telemetries. That's just the bread and butter of how you're going to get Phoneutria Feras. And then you go to Ada, spend them. It's 25 to buy an engram from her, and then 35 to focus it in her alternate tab. So 60 a piece. I don't recommend turning in the random engrams at Rahul because there's a chance you get the trace rifle, and also any Phoneutria Feras you get will be tier 0 drops. And the tier of Phoneutria Fera that you get from focusing it at Ada is dependent on your Guardian rank. So because I'm Guardian rank 7, I'm able to focus tier 3 Phoneutria Feras from here. So level up that Guardian rank if you want to get higher tier drops. Your level doesn't matter, it's the Guardian rank that matters. So just keep that in mind. So the method I recommend for farming combat telemetries is to do the solo ops caldera like you already have been doing, because you're multitasking and also doing a power grind while you're at it. However, if you did not care about levels and you just wanted to get the god roll as quick as possible, the fastest method of actually obtaining combat telemetries is farming Star-Crossed. The difficulty doesn't matter. You don't have to do it on Grandmaster or Master. Just run it on Expert. If you get a decent LFG group, you can pump out like 5 to 6 minute runs very easily. And the end result, you're getting around 40 to 50 combat telemetries per run every 5 or 6 minutes. So do that if you want to get this god roll ASAP. So that's going to do it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Did I miss your god roll? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you enjoyed, be sure to hit the like button. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing. Would love to have you here for more Edge of Fate content on the way. And I will catch you in the next video. See you later.